I mean, it is what it is. This is what happens when you have just a giant conference hiding behind mediocrity week out of conference schedules. The top teams don't play each other. So for one,
welcome to the official podcast of FCS Fans Nation with your hosts Kyler Neal, Matthew Frazee, and Jamie Williams.
FCS Fans Nation, the Sweet 16, down to 16 FCS squads fighting for one national championship. Welcome to the FCS Fans Nation podcast. We hope your Thanksgiving was wonderful. We're thankful for each and every one of you joining us here on YouTube or the Patreon FCS Gold page. Jamie Williams, Kyler Neal, Matt Frazee coming into a cold December for you. I guess if your team kind of had an Eastern Washington style year, Kyler, you're okay with this fun fact. But I got to say, this is kind of mind blowing to start the episode. At the time of this recording, going forward, there are 35 days of FCS football season remaining. That's it. 35. It's going to go by in a blink. And we are down to 16 teams. Jamie Williams, you got the Bills on tonight. We had a great Thanksgiving weekend. How was Thanksgiving weekend in that first round of FCS football for you?
Oh, Thanksgiving was good. Spent it over at my parents. Played a lot of pool in their garage. My dad's got a pool table, axe throwing area in the garage, darts. Total man cave. Pretty good time. So that was good. Had some good food. I smoked the turkey as usual. Turned out great. Games yesterday. A couple of them were really good. A couple of them were really bad. And some teams showed why there's probably only 4 teams that really freaking matter.
Jamie, is your dad a Bills fan too?
Now his thing is he'll watch a game and he roots for whoever is losing at the time. If they take the lead, he starts rooting for the other team.
He's a man of chaos. I like it. That's the things to cheer for right now. That's right up Kyler's alley. How was your Thanksgiving, baby? Mr. Neal? How was that sucker?
Oh man, it was pretty uneventful. So I was home for the first time in a very long time. So we just kind of relaxed and ate some food, and hopefully, you guys don't hear my dog walking in here with his toenails. But then just hung up tons of Christmas lights. And for one, I got to say, hey, Jamie, quick question for you. Are you growing out the sides of the beard?
Ooh. Yeah, I grew it out.
I like it. I think you should keep it. Get rid of the goatee.
I was trying to see if it would come in different colors, like this is white, and see how that would come in. So, just checking it out. Yeah, growing it out a little bit.
Yeah, by Frisco, let's get that big old bushy thing. I mean, that's going to
I'm not fantastic. From the Dakotas.
Well, that's true, but you got to fit in somewhere, right?
That's
honestly, right. It looks really good, Jamie. Yeah, you should rock that.
Yeah. But no, Thanksgiving was all right. It wasn't too eventful. It was nice, just good food, good people, and relaxing.
Good. Well, I'm thankful for you too. Thankful everyone who tunes in with us. Really thankful for our FCS Gold members. We got probably 10 more that shot up on it to get in on the playoff bracket challenge. We had 33 brackets submitted for that FCS bracket playoff challenge. I just tweeted this out tonight. If you don't follow us at FCS Fans Nation on Twitter, from those bracket challenges, we're going to talk a lot about tonight of seeded, unseeded teams. 33 brackets, 12 of them pick Montana State to win it all, 10 pick South Dakota State, 9 for NDSU, 1 for South Dakota, and 1 lonely Chris Hammond picked Idaho. So he's not eligible to win since he's prior or current admin status where he's at in limbo. But that being said, for those gold members, those results will be coming out weekly, and we'll see who wins the $50 Visa gift card. So thanks to all 33 you submitted. If you want to join FCS Gold and get this podcast ad free along with all the other benefits, it's only 99 cents a month. Shameless plug
Lehigh,
time.
So
Yeah, we could use some Lehigh fans. Get in there on the gold. Enough of the shameless plugs. Let's get into the fun of the week, and let's talk about the top 6 topics in the FCS.
What are FCS fans talking and posting about nonstop? It's time for the top 6 topics of the week.
Gentlemen, I have labeled this episode the CAA crash, rightfully so, because, boy, round 1 really brought us a an awakening or an eye-opening moment, maybe from some predictions earlier in the season by you gentlemen and others. One of those by the great Andrew Markham on many live episodes, and when he joined you guys, was not a believer in the CAA whatsoever. And he starts us out with the top 6 topics of the week. And he simply says, what's the re-evaluation of the CAA look like now after they almost went 0-4 in the first round? Is Richmond still as good as we thought? That must be a little bit of a jab. But that being said, for Mr. Andrew Markham, if you guys aren't aware, first round went by, and this hefty amount of CAA teams that were in it, they were very close to literally not getting a W throughout the entire first round. And Kyler, I'm going to give you the floor to start with these because you have just said Flow Sports sucks and the CAA has not been good. What was your takeaway from the results on Saturday?
It was funny. I mean, at the end of the day, it was hilarious. But I mean, it is what it is. This is what happens when you have just a giant conference hiding behind mediocrity week out of conference schedules. The top teams don't play each other. So for one, who knows? Maybe Richmond is actually still decent, but they didn't get to challenge themselves that much. But then at the same time, they lost to Wofford. So maybe they just do suck. I mean, that's a reality. But let's not just bash on the CA without giving some credit to at least Lehigh, right? That's their 9th win of the season. I mean, it's kind of cool. It seems like the Patriot League tends to get a win against the CAA every single postseason. We're pretty dang close to it. What have they had, Jamie, 2 of the last 3 years or something like that where they've upset a CAA team?
Yeah, I mean, you could go back and just find spots where the NAC team is usually decent. Holy Cross is decent for a year. Colgate here and there is decent. Yeah. So when a Patriot League team pops, they're good enough to beat some of those teams in the Northeast and down on the seaboard
for sure
that play in the CAA. And it's not always a shock when you've got a team like this.
Yeah, it was just cool to see. But yeah, at the end of the day, the CAA is definitely inflating all of their records. They're hiding behind a giant conference, and it's a great strategic move. Like, at the end of the day, if you're the CAA commissioner, good job. You got 4 teams in the playoffs when you probably don't deserve it. But at the end of the day, each one of us and anyone who's doing a bracket, it was hard to decline 4 teams getting in, right? Because there was so much chaos of the last few weeks. So even if you don't think they're good enough or didn't deserve 4 teams, who else were you putting in over those 4? I mean, that's the reality. Maybe New Hampshire, but at the end of the day, they went 8-4. They had a couple, wins at the end of the season that really kind of solidified it. And I wasn't putting a Southeastern Louisiana over New Hampshire. I wasn't putting a Southern Utah over New Hampshire. I mean, again, it is what it is. This is kind of the beauty of a one-system playoffs. At the end of the day, too, and this is like the only nice thing I'll ever say about the CA, because I love bashing them right now because, when they thought we can get rid of JMU and add 4 bums, it made a lot of no sense to me. A lot of 0 sense. But at the end of the day, this is a tournament, and it's a one game tournament, right? We don't ever go, hey, Duke shouldn't have been in if they lost to Farley Dickinson or whatever that school's called, right? Or we don't go, Kentucky shouldn't have been in March Madness as a 1 seed and they lose to a 16. No, you go, all right, anything can happen in the postseason. Now, in football, it seems a little bit harder than basketball to get those upsets, but they happen from time to time. I mean, they happen throughout the whole season. There wasn't one year North Dakota State lost to a really bad Indiana State team, right? I mean, at the end of the day, that can happen. And if it can happen in the regular season, you better believe it can happen in the end of the year in the playoffs. Lehigh wants it more. Richmond probably was kind of looking ahead going, this should be a game we're going to win, and we got to get ready to travel to Moscow. Well, at the end of the day, maybe you should have paid a little more attention to Lehigh because they smoked you and they embarrassed you and they embarrassed your whole conference. But yeah, we're going to see this every single year unless the committee kind of gets their heads out of their butts and maybe stops worshiping the ground of these CAA teams in even, like I said and Jamie said, the Big Sky in Missouri Valley. There's sometimes those conferences are down. I mean, it was nice. The Missouri Valley only deserved 4 teams. It's true. That's all they deserved, right? Same with the Big Sky. They got 5, but they only deserve 4. CA probably 3. But it is what it is. Who else are you going to put in there?
That's the question, is who replaces them. Is this where Kevin and the folks get to come in and talk about the SoCon and others of possibly being replacements, or do the results pretty much look the same, Jamie? What do we look at?
It's revisionist history. We do it every year. It's like, oh, this team got beat here, so they didn't deserve XYZ. Yeah, they did. The committee did a good job. Now, I will still argue that Richmond deserved a seat over Incarnate Word. Based off of the resume of the regular season, that's a fact to me. That's not how the committee saw it. I'm good with it. Richmond went in and did not play well. They were trying to dink and dunk their way with the pass game, and it didn't work. Lehigh hit a couple of big plays in the fourth quarter, and it's game over. So I don't know that we need to reevaluate the CAA. They kind of are what we thought they were. New Hampshire, I think a lot of us thought was going to lose to Martin. I didn't think they would get completely
No,
smoked
not
like
not
that.
by 31, right?
But
No, wild.
Martin's defense looked really good. Kincaid Dent looked really good. And that's not a bad New Hampshire team. I mean, they came in also New Hampshire doesn't score a lot of points. So you get up on them, you're probably going to beat them. Richmond, yeah, they're still a good team. They just lost. It happened. Yeah, they're a good team. They won 10 in a row. You don't win 10 in a row without being a good team. Rhode Island, they play every game close. It's just what they do. I'm going to give credit to Kevin or Stone. I'm not sure which one said it. I think it was Kevin compared the Rhode Island team
Furman.
to last year's Furman team.
Yeah.
Where all of a sudden you look up and it didn't look like they did well, but guess what? They won the game at the end because they just played the right way. And that's what Rhode Island does. And then Villanova, yeah, that was a terrible call. It was awful.
They should have lost.
It was flat out wrong. But Eastern Kentucky also didn't play that well and had 59 other minutes to win that game. Villanova made a couple plays that they needed to make. So I saw what I thought I was going to see out of the CAA, to be honest. I'm not shocked by anything other than the fact that Richmond did lose. I thought they would walk by Lehigh, but Lehigh's a good team. That kid, Jaden Green, that had a 65-yard touchdown run, might hear about him later, but really good player. And he's a good one at Lehigh. Hopefully they can hold on to him.
So the CAA maybe not surprising many folks. I will say this about Lehigh before we move onward to this next question by Cody Werlinger, because it's a good transitional period from your guys' statements. Number 10 in total defense. And when you see a team that's like Pioneer or Patriot or something, they almost have to have one thing that really kind of looks like an outlier. You're like, oh, I mean, they probably shouldn't be ranked this high here. But yeah, they're number 10 in total defense. You can talk about level of competition, but they obviously held Richmond on their own, and they did well enough to be competitive. So in terms of surprises and shocks, you weren't shocked by the CAA guys, but Cody Werlinger wants to know just straight up, which result was most surprising, if any? Going across the board, 8 games. Jamie, which one stood out to you the most where you were just like, boy, that one kind of threw me for a loop?
The fact that Abilene Christian shut out Northern Arizona. Now, I don't think Northern Arizona is a very good team at all. I don't think they deserve to be in the bracket. I've said that for weeks. But Abilene Christian was giving up something like 29 points a game. So they're not a team that's going to go in there and scare you with their defense. And that Northern Arizona quarterback, Ty Pennington, he needs to go back to making over houses, I believe, because he wasn't a good quarterback yesterday. And Abilene Christian also, that surprised me, is they played the game without Maverick McIver. He was questionable all week and then didn't play, and the backup came out and put up 24 points, which was good enough. We'll see if McIver's healthy enough this week because they're going to need him. But, yeah, I think that's the result that surprised me the most just because it was a shutout by a team that defense is not one that scared me all year.
Northern Arizona was kind of that team that we kind of called out a little bit of, well, should they be in? Should they not? I was pretty shocked by Rhode Island not doing better against Central Connecticut State. I don't think a lot of people would say that because Rhody, part of that CAA, debacle. But I figured against Central Connecticut State, it would not be 21-17. And obviously Lehigh, you could say the same thing. I was just shocked by how close the CAA was to some of these teams that were just auto bids. As a whole, I did not expect that as much as it played out. I think it's easy after it happens to be like, I told you they suck, but I wasn't going to circle those teams to upset them in the first round. So to me, that was pretty surprising. Mr. Neal, what were you looking at in round one that shocked you a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, man, I agree with kind of all of you guys. But I would lean more towards the CAA again, and I keep bashing them all season, but I didn't think they'd have the performances they had, right? Especially losing to Lehigh. Okay, it is what it is. But yeah, Rhode Island barely getting by a team that just snuck into the playoffs, that no one was expecting to even be in the playoffs. And Rhode Island, we were talking about being a potential seed, right?
Mhm.
The real CAA champs is what the Rhode Island fans are saying right now, right? Then you
That's
have
a comment.
yeah, and then you had, Villanova. They should have lost. I mean, that was a bad call. At the end of the day, that was a bad call. So I thought the CAA would go 4-0. Or worst case scenario, maybe drop to UT Martin, but in a close game, especially at New Hampshire. The fact that it was a 31-point loss at New Hampshire makes me go, Jesus Christ, man. That's different.
We didn't go up there and hammer New Hampshire like that often.
No, I mean, it's not an easy place to play. It's spooky up there, from what I've heard.
Quiet.
So, I mean, yeah, that's just a weird thing where, okay, even if some UT Martin won, I didn't think it'd be 31 points. And there were other games I didn't think it'd be that close. So it made me just go, man, Kyler, just trust your instincts all year. If you say someone sucks, it's probably because they suck. So, I was a little shocked by my own kind of worst case scenario predictions throughout the whole year. Yeah, I didn't think the performances of the CA would be quite this bad against, when you look at it, probably the easiest teams outside of Tarleton playing Drake. But now I'm starting to watch some of the games. Drake probably beats a few of those CAA teams yesterday. I mean,
that's where
I think the reality
I'm going,
is,
Tyler. Yeah.
Drake probably wins against some of those games when you see those performances. So, the CA was rough.
That's where I was going with it. Is another shocking thing to me in that round one was the auto bids. Literally on our FCS mock playoff thing, we were just like, here's the 3. They're not going to be seeds, whatever. Throw them in there. But Drake and Tarleton State, Drake in the first quarter, 14-3. They have that lead in that game. Halftime, you're talking 22-14. And then Drake put up another 7 points in the third quarter. That game was close. And then the 14 points by Tarleton State put it away in the fourth quarter. And I mean, that to me, 43-29, a 14-point game. Drake, Tarleton State, a team that was supposed to be valued pretty high. And then another shocking result, because I don't want to go past it, is, correct me if I'm wrong, Southeast Missouri State, they throw 5 interceptions.
They also threw the ball 87 times.
87 times,
So
5 interceptions. And I mean this in the most respectful way possible, because I gave Illinois State some crap, and maybe I'm trying to save face here. But that game should not be 8 points. That should not be an 8-point game for 5 turnovers. Like Illinois State, like that should have been a blowout.
I mean, it kind of was. They scored 13 late. So, I mean, it was 35-14 after 3. So it's not like they were in a battle at all. But also, Illinois State couldn't run the ball at all.
Right. No one could in that game.
That's
the running
also
was
true.
Non-existent. No one could run.
That's true. Neither team could run the ball.
Well, some surprising results, but, we might be seeing some surprising results next week as well. And we're going to get off the reaction from week 1, and we're going to go into the Sweet 16. And that's where a great Montana State fan, an FCS Gold member, Eric Klick, he's going to take us. Who out of the teams that played in the first round has the best shot at upsetting a top 8 team? Here's the thing, guys. Our next question by Cody kind of goes into who could be on upset alert. So what I want to focus on for Eric's question here is the teams that played in the round 1 that have advanced forward. I want to be more focused, less on the upset and more what they could do. That's a good matchup, right? Instead of just a prediction. Who's where you're like, okay, I think this could be tough for that seeded team coming in. And I'll start with you, Jamie. Who are you seeing in terms of a good matchup now? Like Tarleton going to South Dakota, Illinois State going to UC Davis. What's a good matchup for them?
I mean, we just bashed the CAA, but Villanova playing Incarnate Word could still be a decent matchup. I don't know that I would pick it, but I think they have a shot to go win that game if they can play a clean game and a complete game, because they played a good middle 2 quarters, but they had a bad start and a bad finish, but they held on and they did what they needed to do. I don't know if they can go keep Zach Calzada in check. They got a shot to win that game there as well. So we'll see. That's the one I'm kind of looking at. I don't know that I would pick it because I really kind of like all the seeds right now, just because I think there's a big gap between the haves and have-nots here this year.
Is there anything for the major ones, Kyler, when we're looking forward for next week? Because the next question Cody's going to ask us, and we could just wrap it all in now, is really about the top 8 seeds being on upset alert this weekend or the whole thing going chalk. What about the big hitters? Your South
Yeah.
Dakota States, your North Dakota States, your others. Do we have any threats out there?
I mean, probably not outside of those top four. But right on, I think number 5 is probably on pretty big ups alert. I think UC Davis has a real task on their hands. I mean, also, if you look at just the whole bracket, and it was posted somewhere on Twitter, I forgot who said it. And I was like, yeah, it's true. You know, they get their first game against a really good Missouri Valley team. Then they go and play potentially another really good Missouri Valley team. Then they go and play, if they get by, the Big Sky champs of Montana State. And then they end this season playing another Missouri Valley team for the championship. that's got to be, if UC Davis keeps winning, it's like, geez, what'd you do to the committee? Who hates you? But yeah, I think if we're looking at all the seeds, I mean, Illinois State looks good. That game wasn't as close against Southeast Missouri. Like Jamie said, it was like a 21-point game at the end of the third. Now, cool job for SEMO for coming back, but it is what it is. I think Illinois State has a real shot to upset UC Davis. And, you know, I love March Madness. Those 12-5 seeds always happen. Those 12-5 upsets, there's given two a season. So, you know, this is one of those where I'm like, all right, March Madness.
I think you are ready for basketball season.
It's basketball season, baby. No, but March Madness full effect. We finally have a 12-5. We never get 12-5s, not real ones. Now we have a 12-5, and it's a brutal matchup. If you're UC Davis, just looking at it going, out of the teams that are coming, that's a tough team. I think UT Martin might be one of the best teams that is advancing, but I don't think they have a good shot against Montana State. I mean,
they've got to play a perfect game.
Yeah, their defensive, front seven looks fantastic, and they crushed, New Hampshire, but Montana State's just a different beast. I would imagine Montana State would have beat New Hampshire 41-10.
In the first half.
Kyler, this is my question. My question of this corner for you, I'm going to give this to you because you're talking two Big Sky teams. It's the question for the corner.
Yeah.
Lehigh, really good defense. You can tell from the statistics.
Yeah.
UT Martin, good front seven.
Yeah.
Niles make for matchups. Is there a chance? Is the talent too different despite what statistics and matchups look like?
I think UT Martin,
a talent gap between Idaho and Lehigh and Montana State and UT Martin.
I think UT Martin has a better chance to keep it closer against Montana State than Lehigh does to Idaho. And I think Montana State crushes Idaho. That's kind of the embarrassing thing for Richmond. I don't think Idaho will be in a very close game. Maybe competitive at half. It'll look like, I think, an FBS team versus an FCS team. I really do, think that. Especially because Idaho is finally healthy. They're finally healthy at the right time. So Lehigh, you just had your upset of the century. Now you have to go across country to battle Idaho. And it is a very talented Idaho team. They had some injuries. Maybe there's some position groups they're not the best at, but it's a very talented Idaho team. I don't think this one's going to be close.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Idaho muddled through, this quarterback and that quarterback and this running back hurt and all that. And sometimes that's actually a little bit of a blessing if you can hang on. And they hung on and they got themselves a seed, which gave everybody an extra week. They could be dangerous. I mean, that would be a different Idaho team that Montana State saw earlier as well.
Yeah. How would you guys feel? Because I want to piggyback off this one, Matt. Sorry, I stole the show. Are you going to troll Kevin when Rhode Island beats Mercer?
That was my next question.
Of course we are.
Mercer and Rhode Island.
I think that's going to be an excellent football game.
I think that's a sexy, sneaky matchup, and I don't know who I'd pick. Even though Rhode Island looked horrible against Central Connecticut State, and Mercer's actually looked really good at the end part of their season outside of the Alabama game. Who cares? We're all going to look like that versus Alabama. But, I mean, Mercer just went to Furman and smoked them. I forgot who they played the week before Alabama, but, I mean, they were dominant there too. So, yeah, I mean, if it was before yesterday, I would have been like, Rhode Island has a really good shot. Now I go, ooh, this is sexy, but I don't know if I'm picking Rhode Island anymore.
So Cody Werlinger does ask, bouncing off of Eric's question, are any top 8 seeds on upset alert this weekend, or does it go chalk? Now we're going to do all the predictions of the games during our Taco Bet segment, but not giving that away, I'm going to force you guys and myself to pick, to say what you believe could be the most likely upset. You have to pick one, and you can't copy each other. Okay. I'll go last. I'll give you guys the first two. So Jamie, doesn't mean you're actually going to make this prediction in the Taco Bet. You have to say though, which of the top 8 seeds on upset alert most likely for you right now?
I mean, I'm going to have to go with the one I didn't think should have gotten a seed, and that would be Incarnate Word. I think we'll see if they, how I pick it or if I think they're going to win or not. But I think they're the one most likely to be on upset alert. I think a well-running Villanova team is very balanced offensively and has a decent defense. I don't know if they can put that together, but that would be the type of team that could beat Incarnate Word, and I think they could have that.
Okay, Incarnate Word going to have to prove that 6th seed. Kyler, you can't pick that game. You have to choose who's on upset alert.
Yeah, I wasn't going to pick that one anyway. I think UC Davis has a real opportunity to lose of the 5 seed. So that's my game. I think Illinois State comes in there, shocks the world, upsets UC Davis, but it wouldn't be shocking for Missouri Valley fans.
Very cool. I'm not going to cop out and go up to Mercer in Rhode Island. We kind of just touched on that. I'll go crazy here. I'll say South Dakota. The real moment arrives. I mean, if you get blasted 48-0 in the playoffs, this is the real moment. This is the real expectation. Could Tarleton State go in there and run a high fly offense? Because the thing that Tarleton State can do is pass the ball, right? They can run.
Yeah, they have extremely athletic skill position players.
Yep. Yeah. And South Dakota, excellent corners. The whole defense is great. I get this. But hey, if Tarleton State maybe turns it into a track meet and throws off South Dakota's style, maybe they could shift that around.
Yeah.
And
the one thing that Tarleton does want to do, though, is establish a run with Kayvon Britton. And he might be the best complete running back that they'll see all year. Apologies to everybody in the Valley. But Kayvon Britton's a good back. He reminds me of Le'Veon Bell, if you watch Le'Veon Bell, he's very patient. Once he gets the ball, finds a hole, it goes. That's Britton. I saw him live in person, was really impressed with the way he played. But yeah, Victor Gabalis, Darius Cooper on the outside. He had 11 catches for $190 yesterday, I believe. He's an excellent receiver. He'll play on Sundays. So there's, again, I always talk about balance in the offense, and that's what you need to beat a team like South Dakota, who will pin their ear back and get going, because that's a great defense. So I am interested in that matchup.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting, Jamie. You talk about the patience, because, I mean, I saw firsthand with the Bison. I saw with South Dakota State, playing against them. When you're talking about just Valley bias here, there's not a lot of holes to find against that South Dakota defense. It is very, very impressive what they do against a run game. So should be fun. All right, guys. We kind of have 6 questions in pairs of 2 here. And the 5th question that we're going to go to actually comes from Mr. Kyler Elliott. He says, and we're moving into award season here, if you could add an award to the FCS end-of-year accolades, what would it be called and what would it be for? This is right up the alley of quick hits, but we're going to get a special 6th question here from somebody who hasn't asked a lot of questions for the podcast before, and it's going to transition great into that. So Kyler Elliott says this. Kyler Neal, what would you create here? I want to take some time with this one, because awards are constantly ripped on.
Yeah.
Are they stats? Are they most valuable? Well, this coach actually did this. This the one took over a program. What would you create for end of year accolade FCS?
Yeah, I would probably, there's kind of 2 I'd want. One would be, 2 people would only get nominated every single year. It'd be Zach McKinnell and Sam Herder for the best sports writers of all time. But I think it'd be cool to have a real Heisman. And that's going to sound weird, but the Walter Payton's not a Heisman. Defensive players don't have an opportunity. So, right, it would be cool to have your offensive player of the year, and that's stats written. Walter Payton, offensive player of the year, stats written, right? Then you have a defensive player of the year, probably stats written. Then you have a real Heisman, where it's the biggest MVP, right? Because, again, we're kind of torn on how people vote anyway. So it's one of those things on who's the most valuable actual player in the league. It could be defensive, offense, shoot, an offensive line. That will never happen. But, I mean, it's cool we're seeing this with the Heisman this year. It's normally a quarterback award. I get it, and it probably always will be anyway. So then there's probably going to be 2 quarterbacks who win it. But, I mean, you have Travis Hunter, who's, doing crazy things with wide receiver and, defensive, but he's not going to be any type of offensive MVP. He's not going to be a defensive MVP, but he could be one of the most valuable players in all of college bowl. So he's getting the Heisman love. I think having kind of a mutual thing would be cool, because it is to the best player in the FCS instead of the best offensive, the best defense. This just is the best player. So I think you got to say the Randy Moss Award or something, right?
Yeah.
Just I don't know who else, because I was going to say Jerry Rice. I'm like, damn it, freshman. But yeah, let's put it on You Got Moss, and let's just put it Heisman for FCS, and it's just Randy Moss. It's a picture of him. You get to hang it on your wall forever. It's him smiling. It'll be lovely.
You're right up my alley, and now I have to think of something else because that was right where I was thinking, Kyler. I was thinking like Trey Lance could have won your stats offensive player of the year award based off his statistics. I don't remember all who had the stats that year, but he could have won
the
that.
Walter Payton Award, and he won it.
Yeah, he could, but he could have won that based off stats, but also your MVP idea. He could have easily gotten that Heisman of the FCS.
Yeah, and if you get both, awesome.
Look at, and I'm not sure again about the stats of everybody from last year, but Mark Gronowski and this year's favorites, Tommy Millott and Cam Miller, their stats are not Jeremiah Briscoe mind-blowing. They are not Cooper Kupp mind-blowing. They just aren't. But they certainly could be viewed as some of the most valuable players in the squad, which are allowing for the success of the team. So I love that you have that distinction. I'm going to give Jamie a chance to talk so I can pull something on my butt because
my bad.
We were on the same trajectory, but it's such a good idea, isn't it? Because it solves a problem.
Yeah.
Jamie, you're an actual stats voter. So what do you got?
Yeah, I was actually going to call mine the Randy Moss Award, but I'm going to call it the Cooper Kupp Award. It's just make it a skill position award because the Peyton Award, let's face it, it's now a quarterback award. So let's get something that celebrates the running backs and the receivers because there are plenty of times where a running back or receiver is really the best offensive player, but the quarterback touches the ball in 100% of the offensive plays one way or the other.
Yeah.
So I think that's just the way the award's gone, and it's okay. I don't have a problem with it, but I would love to see some of those skill position players get their due that they deserve.
Man, I'm going way out here, and there might be some issues with this. I don't know what all this looks like, and I'm just making it up on the spot. It'd be awesome if Craig Haley's got his 50-some voters or whatever it is. Whoever makes the playoffs from the committee and final results and everything, and like week by week data, like award the top 3 voters. Give awards at those award ceremonies for the voters who put in the time to actually have very accurate polls based off the results, based off of how things play out by the end of the year from the beginning. I don't know what that would look like, but give some love and appreciation from some of these people, which could actually help their careers and push them forward. And maybe they pay attention a little bit more. I don't know.
That would mean there would have to be transparency. So,
you got to have transparency, but some sort of award like that would be cool.
Or how about this one?
Media voters.
What if they had a real, trophy for someone who had to go through, the whole season and the playoffs and play everyone, all conference champions, and, they were the last team standing that didn't lose. What if there was like a trophy for that?
You mean like one winner?
Yeah, exactly. I think we're on the same page. Like, again, all conference champions, maybe a couple other teams that are deserving to be in some, I don't know, you can call it a postseason, where they're all battling one game elimination to see maybe who's potentially the best team. And then there's a real trophy with every single team eligible, to win that. I think that would be pretty cool that, college Division I football probably doesn't do.
Yeah. I like that. Yep.
Yeah.
Something in that range.
Fair enough.
We have just created the world's greatest awards.
I think so.
On this show.
Nailed
just
it.
Phenomenal. I like that hypothetical. Thank you, Kyler. And we'd love to see the comments on YouTube. Like and subscribe, of course, for what you guys would want to create for an FCS accolade or an award. On that note, we got a question from a Mr. Jamie Williams, who's never asked a question ever on the podcast. And he said, who wants to know who I had on my ballot for the awards? And guess what? We all want to know. Jamie had reached out to us earlier in the week and he said, hey, do you want some pre-prep here for the pod or should we do it live? And Kyler and I were like, screw the gender reveal. Let's do it live. Let's see what pops out. Jamie, the stage is yours. This will be live reaction for you to give your stats award ballots.
All right. Well, as you know, we have 4 awards. Peyton, Offensive Player of the Year. Buck Buchanan, Defensive Player of the Year. Jerry Rice, Freshman of the Year. And the Eddie Robinson Award is the Coach of the Year. We've all vote 1 through 5, one with the guy that we think should win, down to the 5th place. And they're awarded points. So as you know, I'm a voter. Got my paperwork right here. We're going to start with the Eddie Robinson Award. And I'm going to go 5-1. So at number 5, I went Brent Beacon. I've got him at 5. And I put him there because I think with an undefeated season and a lot of talent, you still have to win the game. So I thought he deserved to be recognized on my ballot. I do think Vegan's probably going to run away with this award. Let's be real. I mean, we saw Jimmy run away with it last year. It's just that's kind of what it's become, and that's okay because he's done a great job. So very deserving. All of these candidates are really deserving. And I will say one thing: the CAA Coach of the Year was Billy Kosh, Stony Brook, from 0-11 to 9-3, just out of the playoffs. That would have been my number one, but 100% was going number one on my ballot. Not a finalist. But that doesn't take away from the however many guys, 15 guys that were nominated. So, but I did want to call out Billy Kosh. Had a great season, great turnaround. I think he deserved a lot of accolades. So I'm glad to see him get that CAA. Number 4, I have Chennis Berry of South Carolina State. Came in, taking over for Buddy Pugh, who was a legend there, and just carried him into the Celebration Bowl, which be played in a few weeks. Looking forward to that. That South Carolina State team is really, really good. And number 3. Eddie George, Tennessee State. You hadn't heard anything from them for years. 9-3 this year. Eddie's really done a great job there. Got a couple big boys on that defensive line too. Good Lord. But yeah, they played a decent game last night. We can talk a little bit about them later. I do have my Montana stuff on. Good win by them and Junior Bergen. Number 2, Tim Plow, UC Davis. I think he would be a very deserving winner. I hate having 2 guys from the same conference. But when you look at the list, those 2 guys deserve to be on. I mean, UC Davis, I expected to just kind of fall off towards the end of the season, and they didn't. He's got 2 of the best offensive players in the entire FCS, and they did a great job there. And number 1, with the guys nominated, was easy for me. Mike Jacobs, Mercer, just running through everybody, with bringing a big change to that defense. Got a lot of talent on that defense and got everything out of them. Got a good, solid offense. So that's the 5 for Eddie Robinson. Any pushback, feedback, or thoughts on those 5 guys?
No, my only I probably would have included Rhode Island. I'm having a hard time remembering his name.
Jim Fleming.
I brought it up, I don't know, 3 weeks ago when we were kind of asking who we'd put in the coaching. And I brought up UC Davis's coach in Rhode Island because, again, I'm like you, Jamie. If Vegan wins it, it's 100% deserving. I totally understand. If everyone votes for Vegan and he wins it, awesome. I wouldn't hold anyone against it. I think that is a very deserving coach to win it. But I'm like Jamie, where I kind of do value the turnaround, right? What do you have to work with, and what are you doing with that? And, those 2 teams, and I like how you brought up Stony Brook too. Those are teams that had an instant turnaround, right? One season completely changed the dynamic of that team. We weren't thinking UC Davis would be a 5 seed. We weren't thinking, Rhode Island would be up in the top 10. Having 10 wins. I didn't think that. So, I mean, those are 2 coaches that I think are deserving to be on that list. But, yeah.
Yeah, and my 5th spot was between Fleming and Vegan, and I just gave Vegan, just that
very
little
fair.
bit. And, I buy that argument. He was definitely considered. I think Flem did a great job. I think Joe and Sean probably have him on their ballot as well they should, and I'm also fine with homer picks, too, for stuff like that. You don't want to go out of your way to throw somebody up there that shouldn't be there, but Flem being on people's ballots, there's not a problem with that at all.
Awesome. No, great picks, Jamie. Who do we have next for our category?
Got the Jerry Rice Award.
Here we go.
Yep, this is our freshman of the year. This one was a little bit more difficult. It's funny because McKenna and I were actually chatting back and forth yesterday because everything was due yesterday. This was the one that we were talking about trying to finalize. I think we actually wound up with the same top 2, but maybe in a different order. I'm not sure what he actually wound up going with, but for me, at number 5, Jaden Green, the running back from Lehigh. We actually saw yesterday what he could do. Now, these were due before the games. So yesterday's performance didn't impact any part of my vote. He was already in there. My ballot was submitted on Tuesday. So just so everybody knows that's when I kind of had done all my research through the weekend, knowing that I was going to have a busy week. So I kind of had an idea of where I was going to go before all the finalists kind of came out. But yeah, Jaden Green, 118 carries, 693 yards and 9 touchdowns, and 535 kickoff return yards. So you got another real strong all-purpose guy. Had a real good game yesterday. I did have one defensive guy at number 4, Andrew Zock, a defensive end from Mercer. 13.5 tackles for loss and 6.5 sacks as a freshman. Pretty awesome. 15 quarterback hits. That was the best defensive player on there. Yeah. And I don't even think he made first or second team all SoCon. So go figure that one out. Phenomenal player. Number 3, this team didn't have a very good year, but the quarterback did. Carson Conklin of Sacramento State. They can keep him around. Maybe that's something to build on.
He's in the portal.
Is he already in the portal?
Yeah, Eastern Illinois, I think. No, never mind. I'm thinking of someone else. My bad.
Okay. I mean, I can see it, though.
My bad.
I mean, almost 2,900 yards, 28 touchdowns. He did throw 8 picks, but you expect mistakes from a freshman. So I think everybody knows.
No, you don't.
You don't.
True freshman.
Fair.
So I think everybody knows who are the last 2 names left, because I think they're going to be 1 and 2, and we'll see which one wins the award. At number 2, I do have Shamar Brown from North Dakota State at 2. 965 yards, 5.1 a carry, 14 touchdowns. That he's one of the main reasons that North Dakota State is where they are. However, the guy I have at number 1 is one of the main reasons why his team's the number 1 seed, and that's Adam Jones. 904 yards, 7.3 a carry.
Jeez.
A lot of credit does go to the offensive line there. I get it, but you still got to hit the holes. You still got to break tackles. 9 touchdowns. He also had 16 catches for 150. I think Adam Jones was just a little bit better than Shamar Brown. I think one of those 2 guys wins the award, and both are deserving. I have no issue with either one. Any thoughts there?
That I think it's a solid list. I just wanted you to be a homer for me and put, Ganter Jr. in there. He had like 85 tackles. The only good player in Eastern's defense. It was fun to watch. No, I have no issues with any of your top 5, especially the number 1. That's my number 1.
Yeah, it'd be fun to see some of those guys be featured in some offenses. How disgusting those stats would be, but it's a great list. And I agree with your top 2, and I think it's going to be a coin flip. Both well deserving. So like it a lot. Really like the defensive freshman in there from Mercer as well. That's something I was very unaware of. Those stats are bonkers.
Yeah, I always like to at least get 1 defensive guy in there, if not 2. Sometimes 2 guys really do pop, but it's an offensive player's award mostly. I do believe a linebacker from Kennesaw won it in like 16 or 17. So there are times when it happens, but a lot of really, really good freshman performances. When I was reading through that list, I was like, wow, that dude is a freshman. So, I mean, like Sam always says, the demise of the FCS is well overstated. It's not going anywhere.
It's going to get more competitive now.
Yep. All right, Buck Buchanan. So we're down to the kind of the big 2. So the Buck Buchanan at number 5, I've got Ben Bogle, the linebacker from Southern Illinois, 87 tackles. From a linebacker, 16.5 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks, 2 picks, just all over the field. Gosh, if they didn't have any injuries, we'd be watching this guy play this weekend. Good, solid, strong player. Thought he deserved a spot in the ballot. At number 4, I mean, going back to Mercer, their defensive back, TJ Moore, is a senior at 7 picks. I like to look at a guy that turns the ball over a lot. 7 picks, led the SoCon for sure. Might have led the nation. I think there might have been somebody with 7 or 8 who was out there. So he's on that list. I mean, there's a reason the Mercer's defense is so good, and we don't even talk about guys like Isaac Dowling, who's who I had on my ballot for the Rice Awards a couple years ago. Number 3, Jeremiah Grant out of Richmond, 16.5 tackles for loss, 12.5 sacks, forced a couple of fumbles, hit 6 quarterback hits. Solid, strong player. Of course, didn't really impact the game too much yesterday, but that's okay. But all year, Jeremiah was awesome. Number 2, Josiah Silver, New Hampshire. Again, another guy who got lost in the play yesterday, but he had 17.5 tackles for loss and 11.5 sacks. Quarterback hits 4, 58 tackles. A really good player. Kind of had gotten a little lost in the shuffle the last couple of years, but really popped after a good freshman year, popped again here as a senior. So good to see Josiah Silver. He's at number 2. Number 1 to me felt really obvious, and it's David Walker. The guy impacts the game on every play. 23 tackles for loss out of his 68 tackles. That's ridiculous. He had 10.5 sacks, and I believe he did wind up setting the career sack record at Central Arkansas. 4 forced fumbles, 8 quarterback hits, and then also 6 passive breakups from the defensive line.
Yeah,
Oh my
the guy's
gosh.
the best defensive player. He's the best defensive player in the country, and there was no way to go anywhere else for that number 1 pick.
See, if you had an FCS Heisman, I mean, you could say he's the most valuable person in all of college football right now, at least at the FCS level. You could say that.
Yeah, there's no debate at number 1 there.
No.
And TJ Moore, as you mentioned, Jamie Williams, 7 interceptions, does in fact lead the nation, number 1.
Okay,
And
I thought he did.
what's crazy is Miles Redding, his fellow senior safety, is number 4 in the nation with 6. So that's great. Mercer's defense is bonkers. So very cool. I like that list a lot. And probably the most debated one amongst the nation is your final one here, the Walter Payton. Who do we have?
Yeah, I'm probably gonna shock a couple people with some of this, but
All right.
number 5, and it's gross that I had to put this guy at 5 because he had 120 catches for 1,300 yards for 13 touchdowns.
Wide receiver, you baby.
Efton Chisholm the third.
Yeah.
I mean, cool dude. Glad we got to meet him. Got 120 catches in 12 games. You can't keep him off the ballot. But the crazy thing is I had him at 5.
Yeah.
I mean, but I think all 5 guys I have are really deserving, and there's probably 15 to 20 guys who I thought about putting on this ballot. I mean, this is a stacked Peyton Award ballot. Number 4, a lot of people are going to think this is way, way, way too low. It's Tommy Mellott. I've got him at 4.
Oh, wow.
I just feel like as they got towards the end of the season, he didn't have as big of games as I was kind of expecting. He didn't have that big signature moment to go win this award because he didn't need to. I think Montana State is the trophy they won is not the Walter Payton Award on Tommy Mellott's mantle. They want the big trophy, and I think they've kind of put the governor on him most of the year. Very efficient, wound up 3rd in efficiency. But I've got him at 4. I think I'm going to catch a lot of heat from Montana State fans. I'm okay with that. Number 3, I'm probably going to get called a homer, but when you lead the FCS in rushing and you're really the only thing your team has offensively, Targi Lamson is number 3. 1,957 yards, 20 plus touchdowns, didn't fumble the ball a single time. He had, I believe it was 8 or 9 carries all year that went for a negative yards. He carried that Southern Utah offense. I saw him live in person with Kayvon Britton, and he outplayed him by just a little bit. Kayvon had the 3 touchdowns, but didn't. If Kayvon fumbled, it's just Targi was phenomenal. Put him at 3. Number 2, probably gonna hurt some feelings here too, but that's where I've got Cam Miller. I think Cam's gonna probably win this award, and 100% deserves this award. But I do have him at number 2. His signature moment was clearly that last drive against South Dakota State. And before I finished my research, he was number 1. It was going to be him. I was tired of listening to Brian's arguments because I was already going to put him there. Well, then I made one more little look, and at number 1, I've got Land Larson. 2,200, almost 2,200 all-purpose yards. I believe he also recovered 3 onside kick to preserve games. And for a team that played a lot of close games, that's really important. And if you watch any UC Davis game, you knew where Hastings was going with the ball no matter what. And guess what? He still was effective. Land Larson, to me, was the best player in the FCS this year. And I put him at 1 on my ballot. I don't think he's going to win the award, and that's okay. I do think it's going to be Cam Miller. I do know that the people that I've talked to, the 5 that I have are the 5 that are on a lot of ballots. So it's going to be interesting to see who else gets a lot of votes. I think Hastings will get a lot of votes. McIver's going to get a lot of votes. Britton will get votes. Like, there's a lot of really strong talent. Zach Calzada get at least 1 vote. There's go ahead.
No, I think you catch a ton of heat if Cam Miller's your 1 and Tommy Mellott's your 4. I think if they're both not number 1, your arguments are valid because they don't have the bonkers statistics that most Walter Payton Award winners have. So then you have to start looking into intangibles of what Kyler talked about. Well, is it MVP? Is it most valuable? Mark Gronowski maybe kind of set that standard last year, not to downplay the statistics he did have. So I don't think you should catch as much heat with Cam Miller being 2 and 4. And I'm going to read from Director of Athletic Communications David Collins' article from 6 days ago. He talks basically just about why your number one pick should be the number one pick. And he said, during the 2024 season, UC Davis's senior running back has racked up 2,132 all-purpose yards. The next closest is Southern Utah's Lamson, finished with 1964. Put this into perspective. Take a peek at the FBS and Heisman Trophy favorite Ashton Gentry from Boise State. The top running back at the highest level has 2,164 yards. So like they're separated by like 32 yards. So if you think Ashton Gentry should be the number one up top, your pick and to be able to find him number one, I think actually is really, really top notch. And yeah, UC Davis also a good team, 5 seed, great season. A lot of the same things that Bobcats and Bison will have. So no, I'm not upset about it all. I think that's a sneaky great number one pick.
It's even better if you actually watch the games, because some people, at the end of the day, this is a quarterback award, right? I do think Jamie's probably right. I do think Cam Miller probably wins. But yeah, this is a year where there isn't gaudy stats on the quarterback. This isn't an Eric Berrier type of season where there's 5,100 passing yards and 60 total touchdowns. There's not close to that. So now you look at kind of everywhere else and you go, if you watch any UC Davis game, it was Land Larson all day. He's the only, I think if you take Land Larson off of that UC Davis team, they're a 3-win team, maybe. If you take Cam Miller and probably put the backup quarterback in, and NDSU's probably still a playoff team. I would actually say they are a playoff team. So, I mean, that's where it is if it's the most valuable person to a specific team. Shoot. Yeah, I love that pick. And Land Larson's a beast. He was their number one wide receiving. He was their number one receiving threat. He was their number one running threat. He was their number one threat. And he only returned, 3 punts for 57 yards on the last game. If they would have used him there, he could have easily had 3,500 all-purpose yards because he's good at anything he does. He also, went 5 for 7 passing? Like, he was one of the more accurate quarterbacks in the nation.
Yeah, going into that article more on him, he leads all running backs in the nation, FCS, in both receiving yards, receiving touchdowns, and he has twice finished 2 games this year with at least 100 receiving and 100 rushing yards in the same game.
It's wild.
And I love his comment here. He goes, now go take a look and see if you can find the next person to achieve that feat. You won't find that person. So like it all, honestly, that all makes complete sense to me. Is Cam Miller or Tommy Mellott the number one in rushing yards for quarterbacks or passing yards for quarterbacks? I don't know that. I'm going to assume no.
No.
So even in their own categories, they're not number one for the things. And then you have a running back who's number one in everything and is important to their team. I don't know how you can really argue.
They're both nearly 2,000 yards off of the top passing number.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
they're 2,000 yards away. So, God bless them, but let's not get wrapped up in Mark Gronowski greatness and good timing in terms of who else was performing that year.
Those 2 quarterbacks are closer to Land Larson's total yards than they are the top quarterbacks in total yards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And they're
That's
standing
running
on their they're standing on their efficiency numbers and their wins.
Yeah, and
their
they're good.
signature moments, and that's okay. That's what the award's about.
In the top 2 teams.
And there's nothing wrong with it at all. At all.
Listen.
I just approach it differently.
Yeah.
Well, Jamie,
I like it.
love that you put in all the effort. Every single person, whether they agree or disagree with you, cannot argue the point that you put in the time, the effort, you reach out to other people in the media, other stats voters, and you really put the right amount of work in to make the determinations that you do, and you stand by your stuff and you're transparent. And if people want more from you from that, I'm sorry, folks, you got to find a different show and find a voter who doesn't put anything out there. That probably made you pretty hungry, Jamie, to do all that
Yeah, I'm
work.
pretty
So
hungry.
I'll give you a final comment before we hit the taco bet.
No, I hope more voters put their stuff out. You're going to see it from Sam. You're going to see it from Zach. Dom Izzo has been phenomenal about putting his stuff out there. I think Dom Izzo this year has been awesome. His ballots have been great. He definitely it feels to me he's taken it more seriously, and I don't want to take that as a knock at him in the past. But I just feel like he really has a really good grasp on the FCS as a whole and not just the Valley of North Dakota State. I know Dom won't watch this show, but I've got a lot of respect for Dom.
I think Dom's got his own, just quickly up here, he's got his own show now with WDY, and he's bringing on way more of the national pundits and other people through his own stuff, and he's allowed to just do whatever he wants on the show, more than just kind of his focal point. Sidebar right there. But shout out to Dom Izzo. He is great. That being said, Brian Thompson is not going to be happy with you, Jamie. So
I don't care what Brian thinks.
he's undoubtedly going to make a taco bet with you, and we should make one as well.
Taco King, coming to you from bright and sunny Fargo, North Dakota. It's time for a taco bet, and time for you losers to pay up.
We will see if we owe the Taco King any tacos down there in Frisco. But that being said, the taco question is pretty easy here, guys. It's going to be over under 1.5 seeded teams that lose this weekend. Top 8 seeded teams. Top 8 seeded teams. So teams that got the bye, obviously, because now we have other seeded teams. Okay, here's how we're going to do this. We're not just going to straight up just say 1.5. We're going to go through and do our game predictions. And at the end of it, if you've got 2 top 8 seeds that are upset, clearly you're doing the over. So we're going to take this game by game. We're going to rip through it. And we'll start with the number 1 seed, Montana State UT Martin. We'll go right down the digital line of Kyler, Jamie, me. Kyler, who do you got for this matchup?
I'm going to go with Montana State.
Jamie?
Yeah, Montana State by 3 scores.
Yes, easily Montana State. We'll get by to that one quick. So far, the top 8s are surviving. Idaho and Lehigh. Here we go. Any intrigue here at all, Jamie, or no?
No, I think Idaho rolls.
Oh, there's a part of me that just wants to pick Lehigh just because it'd be beautiful. But
I think make the playoffs anyway.
Yeah. How did they make the playoffs?
If I go in 8-3, that 8-4, that's how.
Fine, Chris, because you did the bracket challenge, I will give you a win, and I'll pick 8 seed Idaho. Kyler, what do you got?
Yeah, Idaho's pissed that they got an 8 seed instead of a 6, and Lehigh, it's just, it's Lehigh. I don't think this is going to be particularly close after one quarter, if it is even in one quarter.
Easy enough. Let's get things difficult here. Maybe we'll start to inch over that over with UC Davis and Illinois State. And I'll go to you again, Jamie, because Kyler's torn here.
I'm not torn. Miles Hastings and Lane Larison will push Cal Davis past Illinois State in a very close game, 1-score game.
I actually feel the same, Jamie. I think I like UC Davis as well. So, Kyler, what do you got?
This is one of those, and I know we just, gave tons of credit to, Lan Larison, but this is a team where if you can slow down Lan Larison, and it seems impossible, you have a really good shot at winning this game. Portland State did it. Even Eastern did it for a while. I think I'm going with Illinois State. I think they're just going to be able to put some defensive pressure onto Lan Larison and company, and they're going to get the upset.
All right. So upset number 1. You're still on the under, though. And we'll go then to South Dakota and Tarleton State. I will absolutely take the Coyotes here, despite my being forced to pick Tarleton to compete against them. I like the Coyotes. Kyler, you?
I think this is actually going to be the most athletic team South Dakota State has faced in a very long time in this year with their skill position. Yeah, my bad. South Dakota, the Coyotes.
They're all the same.
Same thing. There's Canada South. I don't care. But I do think the skill positions of Tarleton is going to give them a run for their money. I think there's going to be a couple big throws over the top that maybe they're not prepared for because these wide receivers are damn fast. They're explosive. They can get out from pretty much any FCS DB, but I still think South Dakota is just too complete of a team. So I'm going to go South Dakota by 14.
Jamie, what do you got?
I actually think Tarleton State might get out a little hot to start, and South Dakota is going to run them down and win the game late by maybe around 10. I think it's a good close first half. Tarleton takes a lead, but I think South Dakota closes with a more physical team.
Very cool. We haven't talked about these guys at all. Like one of the current powerhouses and will be forever probably a blue blood long-term, South Dakota State against the historical Grizz, our background tonight. Shout out Burgum. Jeepers, we haven't talked about this game at all. Any chance Montana wins, Kyler?
I mean, Burgum is in playoff mode, right? He's the Terminator right now. You haven't seen him all year, and then all of a sudden, 2 punt, returns for touchdowns. South Dakota State has struggled they haven't really struggled when they're still putting up 40 points a game, but they're not the same offensively as we saw the last few years. So if Montana has some defensive performances that can slow them down, it can make it a little interesting, but I don't think they do. I think South Dakota State is just a more physical team. I think they can run it down Montana's throat. So yeah, give me South Dakota State. Give me the Jackrabbits by a few touchdowns for sure.
Very cool. Jamie, what do you got?
Montana is not going to be able to live off of field goals to beat South Dakota State. They've got to put the ball in the end zone. And I think they did the right thing by starting Fife. I know they wound up pulling them late. Neither quarterback was really effective last night. If you really look at it, offense for offense, Tennessee State matched them,
Mhm.
but they had the X factor, which is Junior Bergen. And, he can still be the X factor, but I think South Dakota State probably just rolls them. I don't know. We're probably looking something very similar to what we saw in Frisco last year.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get caught up in the historic nature of the Grizz. South Dakota State by a lot. Incarnate Word and Villanova. Here we go. This could push over Kyler for the 1.5 seeded teams top 8. What do you got?
Man, so of course I trash Incarnate Word, even though I actually like them. They're the team I'm rooting for in this postseason. But Villanova's been so shaky this year. They've been up and down. You don't know what Villanova team you're going to get. I think we know what Incarnate Word team we're going to get. So give me Zach and the boys. I'm going to go with the birds. Bird. Word's the bird. Bird's the word. Whatever it is. Yeah, give me Incarnate Word. Go San Antonio, baby.
I won't be at the game, therefore they will win. So yes, Incarnate Word beats Villanova. Jamie?
When the bracket came out and Villanova coming off of the big win against Delaware, I was like, okay, maybe they've righted the ship. They just didn't look right. And I give them a chance to pull the upset. But I do think in front of 500 family and friends, Incarnate Word is probably going to win this game
What a dick.
late.
Dang, Jamie.
They averaged 1,900 fans a game.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
in the regular season. And Eastern did 6,000, and we had no fans.
And that it is a fun place to go to a game, so I hope San Antonio gets more behind them. They are fun.
I'm going to go next year.
They won't invite me ever again. But
Fair enough.
we got 2 games left, and it won't be a moment if I wait till the end. So I'm just gonna bypass me here till the end of it. I'm going back to Cody Werlinger. Are there any top 8 seeds in upset alert, or does it go chalk? I think it goes chalk. So I'll pick Mercer and I'll pick North Dakota State. So there you go, the big reveal. I do think it goes chalk this weekend. I think 1 through 8 all advance. But for Mercer and Rhode Island, Jamie, what do you think?
I think Mercer's just got too much defense. I think, Rhode Island, the running game is going to be good. They're still working on with their second or third string quarterback, Triple H, Hunter Helms, Hurst Helmsley, whatever. There's no pedigree there, though. So I think that Mercer's going to win this game.
So Jamie, and then you're going to probably go NDSU. Are you going chalk across the board? Seeds 1 to 8 for the under?
I think Abilene Christian's going to win this week. By win, I mean a lot of fans, but North Dakota State's going to run them. I mean, hopefully Maverick McIver is healthy and able to play. They're too physical. NDSU is just way too physical. Abilene Christian does have a nice run game. They got a good attack. They haven't seen anything like this.
So there you go. Jamie and I each getting the under with picking
I hate
all top 8 seeds.
I hope
Tyler?
I go 0 for 8.
Kyler, you picking one more upset to go over? Or no?
North Dakota State's going to win. So now it's, the other coin flip game where it is, Rhode Island versus Mercer. If you asked me last week, I probably would have leaned a little bit towards Rhode Island, but man, I do think the defense of Mercer is going to give them some problems. I do think Mercer was ending the season pretty well. Rhode Island was kind of sneaking by. So I think I'm going to go Mercer, SoCon, getting rid of the Valley or the CAA completely this weekend.
Very cool. Well, that was the longest taco bet we've ever had, but it was worth it. And now it's time to get into some quick hits.
Just because your question is answered quickly doesn't mean we don't care. It's time for this week's quick hit questions.
Gentlemen, here we go. Let's break down some quick hit questions, starting with the Rev, who says everyone is saying that the CAA should be punished for poor performance in the playoffs. But weren't they already by not getting a single top 8 seed? This is kind of a great question. What do you think, Kyler?
Yes and no. Sure, they didn't get a seed, and maybe that's punishment because a CA typically always gets a seed. But at the same time, no, they're not punished enough. You have 16 freaking teams, right? Yeah. I think there should be a limit. I don't even like the Big Sky and Valley having as much as we do, right? So if you don't play everyone, this is where I agree with Kevin Marshall. You probably deserve to be punished. If you're not playing the top teams from your conference, you don't deserve to be in. So that's where probably the CAA needs to be punished a little bit more. If you did not play one team from the upper portion, the upper 3, or any of the other playoff teams from the CAA, you don't deserve to be in the playoffs. So yeah, they should be punished a little bit more.
I like it. All right, around the table for this next one here, Mr. Andrew Markham says, If you were able to travel to any second round game, which would it be and why? Can't be your team, Matt, he says. Jamie, where would you travel to for these top 8 these games?
It's between two. It's either Illinois State, UC Davis, or Mercer and Rhode Island. I think I'd go Mercer, Rhode Island, just because I think those are the two most competitive games. Because who wants to see a blowout? Because that could be what the rest of them might be.
True.
I think I want to see that game.
Cool. What do you got, Kyler? Where are you going?
I'd go to Bozeman. Bozeman's a good place. It's fun.
Yeah, in terms of an actual place, that would be fun to go to.
Yeah.
I can't go to your place, Andrew Markham, because I don't want your team to lose. I'm definitely not going outdoors to Brookings or these places that play snow games. That's a travesty, and you should never play outdoors in the winter. So I'm going Chris Hammond because that's a dome, baby, and it's historic, and I've played with it in NCAA football. So, yeah, I'm going down to Vandals country, 100%, and we'll see how that.
Very underwhelmed.
What's that?
You'll be very underwhelmed.
Yeah. Well, I'll be nice and warm, 70 degrees.
There you go.
Probably get stuck on the road in the mountain pass.
Are any of the top 4 seeds in danger of being upset, says Liam Maroney? Any, Jamie? Any chance for the top 4?
I really wish I could say yes, but no. I mean, you might think so in the first half of the Tarleton, South Dakota game, maybe, but no.
Very cool. Who wins the SWAC championship? If you guys with me, jump in. This is what the Rev asks. I think that Jackson State's going to win it. And here's why. Because when I looked at these teams and I broke them down a little bit, I looked at the total defense and I saw that both of them are right next to each other. Jackson State's number 5 in the country, total defense. And tied with Butler is Southern at number 7. So, like, they're in the same conference, together, great defenses. But there's a big disparity offensively. And I think Jackson State's the more well-rounded team. So I'm going to pick Jackson State without Dion to actually win that championship. Anyone going against me on that one?
No.
All right. Well, good luck to both teams to go for that Celebration Bowl. Andrew Markham comes back around the bend. Should refs from conferences that don't partake in playoffs get to be used in the playoffs? Jamie, what do you think?
I don't know that I care that much. He's referring to the Villanova Eastern Kentucky game, which had SWAC refs. The refs all across the country suck no matter where they're coming from. Unfortunately, they're just not very good. They make a lot of stupid mistakes. That just happened to be a SWAC crew that made a really, really, really bad call. So you can't tell me that SWAC wasn't in the playoffs because there they were.
Yeah, and it's hard it's hard to NCAA, FCS, like who you're sending, what you're paying for. It's tough to get picky in that department. Will SDSU kick the ball within 100 miles of Junior Bergam, says Liam Maroney. I will say we had this big thing with North Dakota State and Montana last year before the semifinal. Will they kick to Junior? Will they do it? And I made the argument, it's hard to tell your special teams we're not good enough to stop him. So, like, they might tactfully try to hold him to fair catches, but they absolutely will have faith that South Dakota State special teams will hold.
Just look back to Frisco. They kicked to him.
Yeah.
They kicked to him. They covered. I hate the kick away because guess what you're going to do? You're going to be trying so hard to kick away from this guy. You're going to make a massive mistake.
Yeah.
Just
Also,
kick the ball
Markham,
and go trust your coverage.
Markham, I get Texas is giant because I live here too. But do you realize how far 100 miles is? That's a big kick. You freaking idiot.
That's a huge kick. Are there any remaining teams that are getting significant advantages from playing redshirt players in the postseason? This is a good question. I'm going to be completely honest with you. This is from Jay. I don't know if that rule is still in place or has changed. Remember, you could play him for 4.
Yeah, you can still do it.
You can play him for 4, and the playoffs don't count. So I'm sure there's somebody. I didn't do the research. Sorry, Jay. It's a great question. I don't know the answer.
Jay, it's a great question that we're going to sound really dumb on.
No, I was trying to look through it, and I know there's teams that are using that rule quite a bit and already, played 3-4 games. So yeah, I'm sure there's teams benefiting, but it's hard to track this one. But yeah, of course, there's going to be some teams benefiting from this.
We need Zach McKinnell, Blue Bloods, probably your only human who's going to pull that question off. The Rev says, who is a team that didn't make the playoffs this year that you see as a potential playoff team next year? Wow. Okay, I'm going to start with the stats voter. Jamie, what do you got?
As much as I want to say Southern Utah just for reasons, it's going to be some SoCon team because history. Some SoCon team is going to pop that you don't expect, or Chattanooga will bounce back into the playoffs. Somebody like that. It's going to be a SoCon team.
Okay. Kyler, anybody on your radar?
Yeah, it's the one I've been kind of trashing all year that I said Jamie's a little biased for. I think Southern Utah. So I am going to bounce back. They've been building that program in the right direction. And I love programs that are every year getting 1 to 2 more wins, getting better talent, getting 1 to 2 more wins, getting more competitive in their losses too. They were extremely competitive in every single loss. I think that is a team with, as long as the portal doesn't kill him, as long as the coach isn't getting poached, he sticks around. And of course, I believe he will. I think that's going to be a dangerous team in their conference next year. I think they're in the playoffs. Yeah.
Maybe 6 to 8 guys leaving in the portal. Not much impact, I believe.
Fair enough.
Very, very cool. Why not Danny Johnson? SLU, built it up. They had the dream quarterback, all this, and then they went way down. But we're on the up and up. A conference that they could be competitive in, could get the second bid, maybe win it. So, yeah, I'll go with the Lions for Danny. What year do you consider to be your favorite FCS playoffs, says Kyler Elliott? This is a fun question. Favorite FCS playoffs. I guess we could all pick the year our teams have won championships, but if you discounted that, like what would it be? Jamie, you got a pick there? I think I've got an answer for
us.
It would
be the spring one, honestly, because of how good the game was. It had to be one of the ones where like the group of us went, just because that's the best part is like get to like hang out with you guys and the rest of our buddies and stuff. But the spring one, despite everything going on, it was that one, I guess, because the quality of the game.
I'm going to give you the best FCS playoff of all time, and it has nothing to do with who the winner was. It is 2014. Is the greatest FCS playoff bracket in history. So North Dakota State beats Illinois State in that crazy Wentz situation, right? The week prior, Illinois State upsets number 1 New Hampshire by 3 points. The 2 quarterfinal games prior to that, Illinois State beats Eastern Washington in a high-scoring 59-46 game. New Hampshire beats Chattanooga 35-30. NDSU in the quarterfinals has to run past Coastal Carolina in the Dome 39-32. Sam Houston has to upset Villanova 34-31 in the quarterfinals. Now I'm going to go to the second round. Listen to this. You've got South Dakota State, North Dakota State. That's that corner pass end zone play, 27-24 with less than 1 minute left with Carson Wentz throwing it. Sam Houston State goes and upsets Jacksonville State 37-26. Villanova 29 over Liberty 22. And the first round is littered with teams that actually are good matchups. 7-point game of South Dakota State over blue blood Montana State. Liberty beats James Madison. Sorry, Jamie. 26-21. That is the 2014 bracket. It is littered with high-scoring, overtime, chaotic things. I don't know how you find an unbiased viewer that wouldn't say that that was the best bracket of all time. So, 2014 takes the cake. Beyond reliving the past, do you play Whamageddon during the holiday season, says the Rev, where you have to avoid Wham's Last Christmas? I don't know what this is.
So there's a song by Wham, like the song Last Christmas. There's a version by Wham that is just overplayed. So Whamageddon is how long can you avoid hearing it? I don't play it. Yeah, I don't like. I play it passively because I don't really care. But like, let's see how long it goes. I'm not actively trying to avoid it.
Isn't that Mariah Carey?
I thought it was Mariah.
There's probably a version.
I gave you my heart.
Right, that's the song, but it's the Wham version.
Never heard it.
And Wham. Yeah,
never heard it.
Yeah, I've done that. It's like I made it to like the 20th, but I don't actively try. But that's just what it happens.
I've made it my whole life.
Yeah, Kyler, we win. I've never heard it. I've heard the Mariah.
I know Mariah Carey. Yeah, That's it.
All right, the last question here from an amazing gentleman. I got a great photo with him in Frisco, seems every year, but Jim Poppin caught him in the Fargo Dome. I'm sure we will see each other December 21st again for a semifinal matchup. Since we're in the holiday season, what is the one tradition you're looking forward to this year, says Jim Poppin. To end the podcast, got the Christmas decorations, Kyler Neal, behind you. You put your lights up today.
They look good, too.
They did look good. Gosh. What's the tradition? What are you looking forward to?
Icing my back from climbing up on that freaking ladder 40 feet in the air a lot. Man, putting things on those trees was a pain in the butt. This sounds stupid because I don't really have a Christmas tradition anymore. My wife, for the longest time, and we moved away from all of our family, she worked retail. So she only had one day off in December. and we're doing nothing but just relaxing. I'm doing everything for her because, she worked 30 straight days, and that, we haven't had that. So maybe just going back home and reliving, going back home for a few days, seeing some family. But yeah, I don't really have a Christmas tradition anymore because Christmas has been changed the last 15 years because we haven't really celebrated as much as we should. Even though I got my decorations out, maybe it seems, I got my awesome shirt. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really have one, to be honest. That sounds lame.
I love Christmas and I love you guys more than that. I'm obsessed with it. So I'm going to do an add-on here for Jim. You said that in terms of life changing. Now life, you just said nothing right now. Go back to childhood though. So Jamie, catch this. You get childhood and you get now. So you get both. What about childhood, Kyle?
Yeah.
You have one?
Childhood, it's all revolved for me around family. Childhood, we would Christmas Eve go to my dad's parents, my grandparents, who lived in the next neighborhood over. And then we would go back there for Christmas breakfast. In the afternoon, we would go to my mom's parents, my other grandparents who lived 15 minutes away. So that tells you how close my grandparents were my entire life. And now it's just been spending time with family too. So it's always revolved around family. That's my tradition for Christmas. I do like Thanksgiving better than Christmas. I just prefer that. That's just how I am.
Wild take.
But holidays are tough now.
Yeah.
Over the years, it's just sometimes things make it harder.
For sure. Kyler, what about childhood?
As a child, man, again, it's going to seem like I had horrible Christmases, but I didn't. I loved them. I came from a family of divorce, so Christmas was hectic, right?
Yeah.
We would, get up in the morning, drive about an hour and a half to go see grandma, do a big family Christmas there, and then my dad would pick me up to drive another hour to go to, his Christmas and then their family. So it's like, we didn't maybe just being in a car going, man, I got all these cool gifts that I don't get to play with till next week. Maybe that was my Christmas tradition. I was like, I want to play with them now and I can't, I got to wait. But no, yeah, family. I mean, just growing up, I had a big family, very loved. So it was cool just going to see everyone. And that one day I saw every single side of my family, even in different homes. Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, just family.
Getting together with people. Yeah, my kid, my grandma Langs, Grandpa Langs, we go to their place. On 3 days, 2 nights, all the cousins, everybody. I'm 12 years old. All my cousins are in there. 6 people in a bedroom, staying up till midnight, just BSing, catching up. Tons of gifts the next day. Board games, tons of board games. So that's for sure. I also have done this thing, and anyone who's newly engaged or newly married can totally steal it or start it now. My Aunt Christy did this, and we stole it. First year we started dating, we knew we'd probably end up together. We buy each other an ornament every year, and it's for the year, and we don't know what it's going to be. So we've got now 10 years worth of, we put them next to each other on the tree, and it's like our story on the tree. It's really cool. So it's a fun little tradition that we do. That's the current.
I do the same thing, but I have to buy my wife Swarovski every single year. She has that new crystal. Just changes 2023, 2024, same ornament, different year.
There you go.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we do a lot of ornaments. We've been getting the White House ornament too for years.
Nice.
Oh, very cool. That's awesome. Well, we hope your guys' holiday seasons don't come too quick because we've got some exciting FCS football coming up. We're going to be down to the Elite 8 after this weekend. We appreciate everybody joining us on the FCS Fans Nation podcast. Make sure on YouTube, hit that like and subscribe. Those numbers continue to pump up. If you guys want access to all the FCS Gold stuff, ad-free podcasts, the Discord, the private page, the challenges in the future, the off-season stuff we have planned, 99 cents on Patreon. The link is in the description below. And we just are so thankful again for all of you guys supporting us. We're going to be down in Frisco soon, having drinks. We're excited to make the trip down there and catch up with all of you guys as well. With that being said, though, this brings us to the end of the FCS Fans Nation podcast. Enjoy the start of your December. Make sure your lights are up like Kyler Neal's. And we will see you guys next week for the Elite 8. Boom. Thank you for listening to the FCS Fans Nation podcast. Make sure to leave a like, a comment, and subscribe on YouTube. To listen ad-free and enjoy many other perks, join FCS Gold for only 99 cents a month by using the link in the description below. Make sure to follow FCS Fans Nation on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you for listening to the premier podcast for FCS football. Well, I guess I'll just insert the little... I do have the sound effects saved.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Here, Kyler, do it again. We'll go. Ready?